And now to our first conversation. Well, it's countdown to the general elections continue, and candidates of various parties are sharing their manifestos and making promises which should win the votes of Nigerians. And the economy is top on the agenda, as is common knowledge that these are not favorable times in the global markets, which includes Nigerian economy. Apart from federal stage, let's take a look at the subnationals now, with the PDP governorship candidates in Akwa Ibom, Mr. Umar, and joining us via Zoom. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So currently, states have been accused of depending so much on the federal government and not exploring, resources within. In your view, what can be done differently?
Well, I think it's common knowledge to everyone now that oil is really, there is a limit and there's an extent to oil. So what states are doing, particularly states like Akwa Ibom, is to look at agriculture. Agriculture is a major source of any revenue right now. And so we believe that we can invest in agriculture and open up all of the value chain that agriculture brings. And that will improve our export earning. We're investing heavily in agriculture in Akwa Ibom, and we intend to continue with that trajectory by the grace of God if we get into office. The state government is putting up now the things we couldn't produce in the past here, like tomatoes, onions, and all of those, cucumber. We're doing them now. We're producing them in Akwa Ibom, and then we're investing heavily in oil palm, which Akwa Ibom had been known for in the past. The government has revisited the moribund Akwa palm and is investing now with the hope of attracting a central bank support to be able to boost oil palm. The state government has built a coconut oil refinery, and we're investing heavily in coconut virgin oil. So that agriculture is the way to go, and to steer us away from oil. That is what we're doing, and that's what we intend to continue. Yesterday I was in Abak, it's an oil palm zone. The first oil palm, the first fruit, was picked by the Malaysians from Abak and taken to Malaysia. So if we just drop the ball, there's a need to go back and ensure that we bring all of this. The land is still there, it's still fertile. It's just to have the right leadership, the determination to do what is right, and to ensure that we get back to work. I think that's the way to go.
And talking about, investments in agriculture, investments that requires funding. Where do you see funding, coming from? Are there any risks to funding?
Funding, there's the funding itself from your budget. You can deliberately. It's about where there is a will, like my governor would say. When the passion is right, then you can get things done. Where there is a will, you can, from the budgets you have, deliberately set aside funds to tackle agriculture. And if you're doing very well, you can also talk to other African development banks. There are other banks that want to support agriculture business-wise, so that you can get into the full value chain. There are always people and organizations willing to fund agriculture if it is done right, if it's not just the subsistence farming, if it is done in a commercial level where you can be thinking of export. And for us in Akwa Ibom, you also know that very soon Ibom will begin to do regional flights. And with that, of course, you think of having your cargo terminal, and then you begin to see how you can export some of these agricultural products and earn foreign exchange too.
And obviously, we know the issue of power supply has long, been a challenge in this country. What are your prospects, in the face of, renewable energy, solving this power issue?
renewable energy is the way to go now. And it's just that we need to begin to look at partnering with organizations to be able to get renewable energy into the state and indeed the country. But for Akwa Ibom, you know, our problem may not necessarily be power generation, because we have a power plant that generates much more than we need in Akwa Ibom and put into the national grid. The problem is distribution. And we believe that if the federal government can grant state licenses to distribute what they generate, then we'll be able to provide power for Akwa Ibomites. We have generated enough power, you know, to be able to, but we put them in the national grid and then distribute again back to us. So it's a problem. We need to break that cycle. Once we're able to break that cycle, then it will help us to generate and then distribute. And I think that is the way to go right now, so that our people will have enough power, at least for the state, because we're generating.
Right, and we know Akwa Ibom State has a hospital which is tagged, you know, world class, and yet it's hardly made any impact on medical tourism. What do you think is missing?
No, the hospital, yes, is there, and what we need to do much more is to ensure that to qualify to be a medical, for medical tourism, you have to open up the space. And what we plan to do as part of our strategy is to take this hospital along the Korek-Bene axis, open up all of that area, and deliberately drive medical tourism. There is a Marriott hotel about 20 minutes down that corridor. The roads are open. It's just to create the whole of that area and be able to put in place the facilities you need beyond the hospital itself. When people come and probably there's a surgery, they need to recuperate somewhere. They need to have a park where they can do exercises. They need to have a diagnostic center just around the place there. There need to be a good logistics that brings people from the hotel to the hospital. All of that is in a package. So the hospital itself cannot drive medical tourism without all of this accompaniment. And that's what in our blueprint we seek to achieve, so that with the hospital that is there, the Ibom Specialist Hospital, between the hospital and the Marriott Hotel, which is sitting there, and the corridor that you have, you can create a whole lot of things happening there to boost medical tourism. If you go to Dubai, you have what is called a medical village. Now, when you get into the medical village, it's not just about the hospital. It's about a whole lot of facility that surrounds the hospital. And that's what we believe we want to put in place, so that it can help our people and people visiting the state to have a full value chain service as they go to the hospital. The hospital is good, there are professionals there, and we can bring in more. But we just need to ensure that the facility to drive that is completely available.
And yeah, we did get that report, you know, from the MBS that 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor, no access to health care, a good job, you know, good standard of living, and all of that. What do you think? What's your plan to reduce the number coming out of Akwa Ibom State?
The plan to get people back to work is properly encapsulated in our RISE agenda. If you take the RISE agenda, you see the plans we have clearly. We want to invest in agricultural development. We want to invest in rural development and then infrastructural maintenance. Then we go on to security. We go on to the economy, education, and environmental management. These issues are, once you can put that properly in place, then you'll be able to create jobs. Agriculture itself creates jobs. Then you go on to the rural areas. You develop our tourism potential. Akwa Ibom has the longest coastline in this country, and we need to develop those beaches and ensure that we have about 21 tourist sites in Akwa Ibom, We need to develop all of that and then support it with good security so that people can feel safe when they come into the state. Once you are able to open up the state like it's done now, to the glory of God, we have Ibom Air, and people can come in, you know, from Abuja, from Lagos, and from all over the place, and then have a good tourism potentials available in the state. So we can have jobs, our people can work. Government alone will not be able to drive jobs, but you can bring in investors. Once the atmosphere is, the state is safe, is conducive, is investor friendly, you can look at your ease of doing business index, and you can help investors to settle in properly. Job will come naturally and then support the small, medium enterprises, because 60% of jobs are created by SMEs, not necessarily the big organization. So you invest heavily by supporting the small, medium enterprises. And this is the way to go at the moment to create jobs for our teeming youths. Because if we don't do anything, then is a time bomb waiting to explode. These youths, as they come out of school, must have jobs. And then beyond that, you also teach them in school so that they can have a secondary option. Some of them will, so that while in school, they can learn a trade, they can do something, so that when they come out, they themselves can be employers of labor, be job creators, rather than, be job seekers. These are some of the ways we intend to open up the space and let our young people be able to get something doing, because it's becoming alarming each day, that everyone is just sitting waiting for government alone. Government alone will not do it. We need to encourage entrepreneurs now.
And talking about alarming, the debt issue right now in Nigeria, we see there as of Q2 2022, Akwa Ibom State had an external debt stock of $46 million and a domestic debt stock of about 203 billion naira there. And obviously, the debt is a real issue right now. What is your plan to still be able to fund most of these projects, yet reduce debt?
You see, all of these debts, and short, they have their time span. They have how to be able to, you don't just pay it up in one time, they must have, so you look at all of that. You look at all of the time span, you work that through with your accounting people, through your budget. And as a businessman, I know that you owe the banks, but all of that will come into when you look at your budget, you look at your financial analysis, and you'll be able to see why servicing the debt, the things you can do with the other funds that are available. So, and while you are trying to generate other internal revenue for your state, there are other ways you can generate internal revenue to meet up the demand of the things you want to do. So debt will always be there. It's okay, but you really need to sit down and look at it and then talk about it and see how you can prorate the payment in line with the agreement that the state had entered into. And some of the things that the state invested in will of course begin to yield revenue at the time to be able to fund the repayment.
And what's the plan to actually, make sure that some of these debts that are already taken and will be taken in future actually are used towards the development of the state?
So the debts that have been taken, if you get to Akwa Ibom today, you will know that it's been used in the development of the state. There are major landmark things. For example, this is the only state in this country that have invested heavily in the aviation industry. You need to, apart from Ibom Air, you need to know that there is the MRO, the maintenance, repair, and overhaul hangar that is almost completed. You need to see the new terminal building. There is an effort. That investment in the aviation industry alone is heavy. And you know that there will be returns, obviously. There's investment in infrastructure. And most of these infrastructures are economically driven. So there will be returns on them. So the facilities are not just acquired for, recurrent expenditures. They are acquired for assets which are commercially vested. So in the future, of course, that is the only way to go. You cannot be taking loan for consumption. It's not doable. And if, as an entrepreneur, I know fully well that if you have to survive, you cannot be acquiring loan for consumption. It must be for strategic assets that will be viable and help the state have a return on investment over time.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Omoyeno, PDP governorship candidate, and wish you luck in your endeavors. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much indeed. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, commodities market update is next. A lot happening in the commodity space, a lot of volatility. We'll drill down on that next. Just stay with us. This is Business Morning.